Hi everyone, this is Paolo here from Regalia Coffee. Thanks for joining us for our April Fine Rarities subscription. I have Mr. Tyson Shetley here. He is a roaster of ours and is increasingly becoming an incredible coffee professional. He has a background as a barista front of end and joined the team late last year. So we're going to be tasting this wonderful Ecuadorian coffee, this Abel Salinas from Finca Arashi, together with you. Just like last time, we are going to be tasting it as a cupping. And in this case, we're going to be using the Hoop brewer, which we used recently at the Coffee Fest Expo back in March. It's a very easy brewer, very simple brewer. Tyson, you're a barista. I mean, how was using the Hoop for the first time in the sort of expo sort of format?
Oh, it was very, very convenient, easy to manage as well. Not much timing is involved, so we could just pour the water and let it run. And the overall quality of the end is very good as well.
Amazing. I mean, you can't ask for anything better than that, right? Don't get me wrong, I love the dynamic sort of feeling I get when I'm doing a pour over, but at the expo we were talking with quite a lot of people.
Yeah.
And we were forced to also produce really excellent coffee. And this brewer in particular is considered to be a no bypass brewer, right? In that specific category with the pulsar and the tricolate. And so this one, again, it was relatively simple. We'll put the brewing profile and the brewing recipe in the description of the video. But before we talk about the brewing, go ahead if you want to start. He's going to brew the coffees and we're going to taste them, again, using cuppings and the Hoop brewer itself. But while he brews that, let's talk about this month's subscription. We listened to a lot of the feedback that everyone provided, and as such, the coffee that is in the vac sealed packs has been well rested for more than 3 weeks. So, what does that mean? It means that when you open that pack of coffee, it is ready to go. You don't need to let it sit any longer than that. Just go ahead and throw it right in the grinder and brew it however you'd like. So the added convenience of having it rested there so that it's ready, it's peak rested, it's very much convenient. So thank you for all the suggestions. We're always trying to give you a much better product, so please keep them coming. Coffee from Ecuador is something very special to me. It's something that was actually in a way very revelatory. I first had my first Typica Mejorado almost a decade ago, and without knowing where it was from, it just had this incredible sort of silky texture that I'd never had in coffees before. I'd always had coffees that were very fruit forward and coffees that were very fresh and had a really nice dynamic sort of acid range. But this was the first time I had something just so silky and crisp and something that really focused on texture specifically. And I soon found out that it was the Typica Mejorado, which is, I would say, Ecuador's bread and butter specialty varietal, at least the ones that come into the States. Typica Mejorado itself is something that is associated with really high quality Ecuadorian coffee. This I learned from representatives at Ane Cafe, who sort of run the coffee programs in Ecuador. And outside of really well-known varietals like Sidra or Geisha, Typica Mejorado is one of those semi-high yielding but still really excellent varietals that we see in specific places like Loja, which is a really great region of coffee, Sarajevo, which is where Abel Salinas' farm is. And so whenever we see a Typica Mejorado on the menu, it's usually coming from a really high standard already, right? And so this coffee for me is, again, it's very intense in its texture, its silkiness. It has this lovely sort of peach quality. I would say that it's not the most floral coffee, but it does have some very soft, if anything, like a bouquet of aromatics. And depending on what type of water you use, give this almost like sort of crisp, like orangey quality, which to me is always really fantastic. I don't usually see that in coffees from this region. I always get that from, say, Guatemala or really high quality lots from Honduras, for example. But this I'm getting from this lot. Abel Salinas himself is a very well-known coffee producer. I know for a fact that we were not the only ones to get this green. In fact, we had to kind of fight to get this green just because it was so good. Shout outs to the Coffee Quest, Steve and Sarah, Sal, and their whole team for bringing that coffee in from Ecuador. It's always a very short window for us to grab excellent quality from Ecuador, and we're very excited to present this to you. So why did this come on the menu? Well, outside of tasting fantastic, Ecuador actually doesn't produce a lot of coffee. It doesn't produce as much coffee as, say, Brazil or Colombia. In fact, it's very, very small in terms of its production capability. It doesn't mean that it's not good quality. In fact, I would say that perhaps because they don't produce as much, perhaps the lots aren't actually over-harvested. Right? And so a lot of the coffees that are coming in the States are always these really deep, nuanced, nutrient-driven sort of coffees. And so that's always really exciting for me. Personally, I get to go to Ecuador in August, so yay. I hope you get a chance to go too. But let's talk about a little bit what we're brewing here. So we're going to be brewing with, again, New York City water. New York City water is on the spectrum very, very low in its mineral content. Generally speaking, we're looking at anywhere between 15 to 20 ppm. I know some parts of Manhattan that are actually well below that. What does that mean? Sometimes the coffees will taste juicy, but they'll also taste perhaps a little edgy in their sort of acidic sort of range. And so for people that are not tasting that, it's totally fine. Don't go out and buy reverse osmosis water. Just taste with what you have. If you tend to have higher alkalinity, like really, really high alkalinity, you might not get as much juiciness, and it actually, in its worst cases, might be a little dry. You might want to consider perhaps not investing in RO, but trying to find a different type of water source that has just a little bit less alkalinity. We're looking to really enjoy these coffees effortlessly, and that's really my mission here at Regalia. So, if it's super low, again, you'll get juiciness, but not a lot of polish. If there's just a little bit of acidity, you'll just get a really nice sort of balance of acidity, which I think is important. But without further ado, let's taste the cupping. I've got this hidden behind our brewing card. After you. Wow. So for me, right off the bat, I just taste sweetness, right? And I get this playful, yet sort of balanced and restrained sort of fruit character. This is perhaps due to the wash process. I didn't get too much notes on the wet processing, in terms of how much time is in wet fermentation versus dry, but to me, nothing about this coffee tastes funky. What do you think?
I think it is well balanced. The body is buoyant and easy to drink. It's like honey, like the flavors coming out of it.
Right.
Like a nectarine.
Like a nectarine, yeah, okay, fantastic. Again, this might differ based on your water and your setup. Here at the roastery, we cup all the time. We cup every day, sometimes twice a day, 3 times a day, depending on how backlogged we are. But the convenience of cupping is the fact that we can just grind at a pseudo-fine sort of setting, add water, and not run into any astringency, right? This in particular is a 17:1 brewing ratio. So we're foregoing a little bit of body for more cup clarity, and yet it still does taste, quite deep in its impression, right? Acidity-wise, do you find that there's a lot of it, a little bit? Is it intense, or is it gentle?
It's quite gentle acidity. It's not overpowering.
Right. I almost even taste that, now that you mentioned honey, it does have that sort of focused honey sort of sweetness. It's really pleasant. I tend to bring coffees like this home because my wife won't accept anything funky like that. But so this is a classic favorite at home. But there's something about it being actually unquenchable right? You just kind of want to drink more and more. But sometimes I have a coffee that's really intensely fermented or fruity, and I'll take 1 or 2 sips and be like, actually, no, I'm okay. But this one is something that's generally always inviting me to come back, right?
Yeah.
It's really pleasant. And in a world of a lot of these post-processed coffees, whether it's anaerobic or carbon macerated or co-fermented, this is it's a really great reprieve from that, because it's just the intrinsic power of the varietal, with of course Abel Salinas' touch in processing, which is not to be underestimated by any means. Why don't we taste the coffees from the hoop brewer? This one will be ever so slightly warmer or hotter. Here we're using, again, a 17:1 brewing ratio. This is important because we do want to taste these evenly across the ball. Outside of, with all things, outside of everything being equal, this will be very interesting. Thank you so much. To taste with a paper filter, and this one as an immersion brew. Yeah, taste it. So much hotter, obviously, but the clarity that I get from this cup is really, really nice.
Yeah, it's a lot sharper. You can tell where it starts and ends.
Yes, of course. It's definitely more, I would say, like the brew is more crisp, perhaps, and maybe that has a lot to do with the paper filter. We're using these special papers from Scott Rayo, actually. Scott has these special filters for the hoop, which are crimped on one side, which allows us to grind slightly finer, but still have reasonable brew times. So if you're interested in this filter, please go check out his website. Yeah, this one's really excellent. Very, very clean in the extraction, right? And the brew time was around probably 4 minutes or so, and we're just getting no astringency. I'm getting no off flavors. I get that sort of nice, maybe not mountain honey, but like this nice honeyed sort of note, like at the back of the cup. What else do you get?
I'm getting a little bit more of the floral notes in this one.
Absolutely, it's like maybe at the periphery, right, of the cup. It almost, if anything, tastes, for me, maybe perhaps like a honey Ethiopia in a strange way, right?
Yeah, no way.
Like it's a subtle but like intense sort of expression. I don't know what it is, but there was something that made it somewhat familiar to that. Ethiopian coffees are coming up, by the way. This is sort of the season, so we're really excited for that. Which one do you prefer right now? Do you prefer this type of interpretation with the cupping, or do you prefer the hoop brewer specifically?
I think I prefer the hoop. I think with it's a lot clearer, easier to drink, and I think the no bypass helps a lot as well.
Right. It's also easy.
Yeah.
Like, it's remarkably easy. Look, it's a very forgiving coffee, right? So if you use a 16:1 brewing ratio or a 15:1 brewing ratio, whatever you want, like just make sure that you use a high enough brewing ratio where you can really just get a lot of clarity, because the gift of this coffee is in its clarity, its crispness, its freshness. We have a lot of this coffee back sealed and frozen in our reserve, so we'll have this for a long time, but this is such a great reminder of how good Ecuadorian coffee can be. Do you have anything else to add about this coffee in terms of like where it ranks on your personal favorite list?
Personal favorite?
That orangey quality is just so good. I don't know. I can't find that too often.
Yeah. I'd say maybe top 10.
Okay, top 10. All right. I'd say the same thing. This for me is like top 10 this year for sure. It's just crisp and effortless, and I just want to just drink it over and over and over again. It's just so pleasant. we hope that you enjoy it. This is a really fun coffee for us, and we really hope that you're enjoying the Fine Rarities subscription. If you have any questions or comments of how we can improve it, just let us know. But thank you again from Tyson and myself. We look forward to welcoming you back next month for the Buena Vista Panela Bacana, which is a natural pink bourbon. That will be quite the opposite from this, but it's still really, really excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.